It's funny. When you're just browsing online and you see one of those massive, like 20% off banners splashed across a homepage, you probably just view it through the lens of a consumer.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it just feels like a quick win, right?
Right. It's a deal.
Mm.
But if you flip the perspective to the actual business running that site, offering that simple 20% discount might mean they have to sell a staggering 133% more product just to break even.
Which is just wild to think about. It completely alters how you view, like, promotional mechanics in general.
Yeah, totally.
Suddenly, that super aggressive homepage banner, it looks way less like a smart acquisition channel and a lot more like a massive unmitigated financial liability.
It really reframes the entire conversation around e-commerce growth.
Yeah.
And honestly, that is exactly our focus today. We're taking a deep dive into this incredibly extensive end-to-end guide titled Shopify Discounts, Mechanisms, Setup, and ROI Math.
Yeah, it's a beast of a document.
It really is. And our mission for you today, listening to this, is pretty straightforward. But it does require a fundamental shift in how you operate. We want to shortcut your path to being a truly well-informed e-commerce strategist.
Right.
But to achieve that, you really have to stop looking at discounts as this magic growth tool and start understanding them strictly for what they actually are, which is a margin tool.
Yeah, that mindset shift is basically the foundation of everything we're going to talk about today, because the overarching theme in this guide is that when it comes to promotions, it's discipline, not creativity, that actually dictates success.
Right, because anyone can just slash prices.
Exactly. Anyone can creatively slash a price tag to generate a huge spike in traffic. But it takes, rigorous operational discipline to run a promotion that actually leaves positive cash flow in the bank once the dust settles.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because before we can even start talking about how to configure a discount in a storefront, we have to look at the brutal reality of the underlying math.
The scary part.
Yeah, the really scary part. We need to see if a business can actually survive the event in the first place. So the guide gives us this central formula for calculating the extra sales required just to break even on a discount.
Right.
It's Drew divided by the result of MEM minus D. And in this equation, D is your discount percentage, and M is your contribution margin.
Yeah.
But before we run the numbers on that, let's clarify that term.
Yeah.
Because contribution margin gets confused with gross margin, like all the time.
Oh, constantly. And that is a really critical distinction to make. When we say contribution margin in this specific context, we aren't just talking about your wholesale cost or, your basic cost of goods sold.
More comprehensive than that.
Way more. We are factoring in literally all of your variable costs to fulfill that specific order. So you take your retail price and you subtract the product cost, the pick and pack warehouse fees.
Right, the logistics.
Yeah, the variable shipping costs, the payment gateway fees, all of it. The percentage you were left with after all that, that is your contribution margin.
Got it.
It's the actual cash you have available to cover your fixed operating expenses and ideally, leave a little profit.
So essentially, it's the true financial floor of the transaction.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's apply that formula to the example we opened the deep dive with. Say a brand has a 35% contribution margin on a product. If they run a 20% promotion, they're basically surrendering more than half of their available margin right off the bat.
Yeah, it hurts to even say it out loud.
It does. And to generate the exact same gross profit dollars they would have made without the sale, they have to push exactly 133% more volume.
And here is where the trap really springs, because the math curves exponentially.
How do you mean?
Well, if a merchant gets aggressive and pushes that promo from 20% to 30% off while still operating on that same 35% baseline margin, they don't just need a moderate bump in traffic.
Right.
They need a staggering 600% increase in order volume just to break even.
A 600% increase. I mean, it's practically a completely different business model at that point.
It's insane.
But, okay, I want to push back on this purely mathematical view for a second here.
Sure.
Isn't the traditional argument that a sale, gets new customers into the ecosystem, shouldn't a brand be willing to take a bit of a hit on that first transaction, maybe even lose a little money up front, just for the sake of acquiring a new loyalist who's going to buy 5 more times over the next year?
What's fascinating here is that the nominal price tag of the item actually has zero impact on the survival math. The margin dictates absolutely everything.
Okay.
And to address your point about acquiring customers at a loss, yes, lifetime value is a vital metric, obviously. But revenue uplift during a promotional spike is so frequently just a vanity metric.
Because it looks good on a graph.
Exactly. It creates this beautiful hockey stick upward curve on a sales chart. But if your contribution margin isn't protected, you are basically buying those new customers at a devastating, often totally unsustainable premium.
Wow.
The guide makes it explicitly clear, actually. It says if your starting margin is below 30%, anything heavier than a 10% discount is structurally just a loss leader.
Meaning the business is guaranteed to lose money on every single unit shipped.
Yeah.
And then they're entirely dependent on that customer coming back just to recover the initial acquisition loss, which is a huge gamble.
Precisely. Which is why the source material provides this golden, unbreakable rule for promotional planning.
Which is?
You must cap your maximum discount at your baseline margin, minus 5 to 10 percentage points. So if your contribution margin is 35%, your absolute maximum survivable discount is 25 to 30%.
So you always have that 5 to 10% buffer.
Exactly. Any deeper than that, and you cross the threshold into negative unit economics. And this can't just be some, casual estimate based on what your competitors are doing. It has to be a hard configuration in your financial planning.
A hard floor.
Mm-hmm.
Man, if the math is really this unforgiving, it makes me wonder why merchants constantly risk it. I mean, part of it seems to be that the platform itself just makes it incredibly easy to just, hit the discount button.
It's almost too easy.
Yeah. Which brings us to the actual delivery. Once you know your margin floor, how do you actually execute the promotion without totally overcomplicating the technical architecture of the store?
Well, this is where we get to analyze the actual mechanics of discounting. And the reality here is that the vast majority of brands do not need to reinvent the wheel.
Okay.
They don't need to build out all this custom architecture. Shopify natively ships with 7 distinct discount mechanisms that comfortably cover, I'd say, about 90% of all e-commerce use cases.
Yeah, the guide lists them out. Let's see, it's automatic discounts, discount codes, buy one, get one or BOGO setups, volume breaks, free shipping, B2B price lists for wholesale, and gift cards.
Yep, that's the core 7.
I want to pause on volume breaks versus automatic discounts for a second, because they sound kind of similar on the surface, but they function really differently mechanically, don't they?
They do, yeah. So an automatic discount applies a rule to the entire cart automatically at checkout. Like, say, 15% off the whole order, and the customer doesn't even have to enter a code.
Nice and frictionless.
Right. But a volume break is tiered at the product level. It specifically incentivizes buying more of the exact same item.
So like a bulk discount.
Exactly. For instance, buy 1 shirt at full price, buy 3 and get 10% off each, buy 5 and get 20% off. It explicitly drives up the average order value by moving dead stock.
Oh, okay.
Whereas a site-wide automatic discount applies even if they just buy a single low-margin accessory, which is terrible for your margin.
I see the distinction. Yet, despite having these 7 tools built directly into the admin panel, the guide notes that merchants routinely waste around $300 a month on third-party apps just to execute promotions that the platform can handle natively.
It's wild.
It's like buying a custom-built $300 a month sports car when a free, sturdy bicycle gets you to the grocery store faster and safer. It just adds cost and complexity for literally no functional gain.
It really is a classic case of assuming that complexity equals sophistication. Apps and Shopify functions are only truly necessary for that genuinely custom 10% of promotional scenarios.
What specifically falls into that custom 10% bucket then?
A primary example would be competitor-based dynamic pricing.
Okay, like price matching.
Yeah, basically. If you want your store's price to algorithmically adjust in real time based on a competitor's data feed, you need a custom application for that.
That makes sense.
Another example is highly complex conditional stacking. So say you want to apply a discount only if a customer holds a specific NFT and has purchased a certain SKU in the last 180 days.
Very specific.
Right. For that, you would use Shopify functions, which allows developers to inject serverless backend code directly into the checkout logic. Or if you need geo-aware pricing rules, but you haven't migrated to Shopify Markets yet, which is their native cross-border tool, then you'd need an app for that too.
Okay, but if we look at the 90% of standard use cases, the guide maps out this brilliant comparison between the conversion lift a promo provides versus the margin hit the business takes.
Yes, this is such a good section.
And the most common strategies actually perform the worst. Site-wide percent off codes and first-order welcome codes are literally the most expensive levers a brand can pull.
They really are.
They obliterate your margin for a relatively low incremental conversion. Meanwhile, things like free shipping and loyalty perks deliver the absolute best lift per margin point sacrificed. So if free shipping is consistently the cheapest way to lift conversion, why do so many brands immediately default to blasting out 20% off site-wide codes?
If we connect this back to the bigger picture, it really comes down to human behavioral psychology intersecting with platform mechanics. Shipping costs are consistently the single most cited cause of cart abandonment across the entire e-commerce sector.
Yeah, I've definitely abandoned carts because of that. Like, a customer will happily put a $150 item in their cart, but if they get to checkout and see a $9 shipping fee, they suddenly reconsider the entire purchase.
Exactly. It feels like a penalty.
It really does.
It triggers loss aversion in the brain. They feel like they are paying for a service logistics rather than actually acquiring value. So by establishing a free shipping threshold, let's say, free shipping on orders over $100, you completely remove that psychological friction.
Right.
And simultaneously, you actively encourage the customer to add one more low-friction item to their cart just to cross that threshold.
I'm only $10 away from free shipping. I might as well add socks.
Exactly. You increase the average order value, you increase gross margin dollars, and crucially, you achieve all this without diluting the perceived premium value of your core products by slapping a 20% off sticker on them.
That is so smart. Okay, so we have the unbreakable margin floor calculated, and we understand we should lean heavily on native tools like free shipping thresholds rather than defaulting to site-wide codes.
Yeah.
But even with the right tools, there are massive vulnerabilities. Here's where it gets really interesting, because the guide introduces a concept called the silent killers.
Oh yes, the silent killers.
These are the invisible, accidental combinations of rules that can just systematically dismantle a business's cash flow without them even realizing it.
We're talking about unmodeled stacking here. Shopify categorizes all discounts into 3 distinct buckets: order discounts, product discounts, and shipping discounts.
Okay.
Historically, you actually couldn't combine these, but now you can, which is great, but combinability is an opt-in feature. It requires a merchant to actively go in and check a box saying, combines with other discounts.
And the danger is how easily a well-intentioned marketing manager can just check those boxes without mapping out the mathematical chain reaction. Like, a merchant might set up a 15% off product discount for a specific collection, right? And then maybe a 10% off order discount for a VIP customer segment, plus a free shipping rule.
A very common setup.
But if they toggle all of those to be combinable without actually modeling the outcome, a customer who overlaps those segments can walk away with 35 to 40% off their total order.
And if your baseline contribution margin is 35%,
You're instantly underwater.
instantly,
Yeah.
you are actively paying for the privilege of fulfilling that order. And the scary part is the platform will not generate a warning or stop the transaction. It just simply executes the logic you configured.
Which is exactly why the source material insists on running what it calls the worst basket test.
Such a crucial step.
Right. So before a merchant ever lets a combinable discount rule go live, they must artificially construct the most damaging possible scenario. They have to build a test cart containing their absolute lowest margin product, apply the highest stacked discount combination, ensure free shipping triggers, and lower the item quantity to the absolute minimum.
Yeah.
Wait, let me make sure I'm wrapping my head around this correctly. Why do I lower the quantity to the absolute minimum for the test? Wouldn't a massive $1,000 order with a 40% discount be the worst case scenario?
It totally seems counterintuitive, I know. But a massive order actually absorbs the fixed costs way better.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The worst case scenario is the minimum qualifying quantity purely because of shipping logistics. Think about it. If a customer buys a single low-margin $20 item, stacks a 40% discount, bringing it down to $12, and then triggers a free shipping rule.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Right. Your fixed pick and pack fee and your outbound postage might cost you $8 right there. So you are left with $4 to cover the actual product cost and the payment processing. That minimum quantity basket is where your gross margin goes negative the fastest.
That's terrifying.
If analyzing that worst basket makes your CFO wince, you definitely have an unmodeled stacking problem.
That is a massive structural vulnerability. But beyond the mechanical errors of stacking, there is also a psychological silent killer mentioned here. The guide refers to this as the trust ledger.
Yeah, and this raises an important question about how modern consumers are actually being conditioned by promotional cadences. The guide introduces this stark benchmark. If more than 30% of a brand's total gross revenue is generated via discounted sales, it literally ceases to be a promotional strategy.
It's just the norm.
Exactly. The brand has effectively just permanently lowered its everyday retail price in the minds of its consumers.
It totally makes me think of those legacy department stores that ran clearance events literally every single weekend.
Oh, absolutely.
Eventually, no one believed the sticker price. Like, if a direct-to-consumer brand constantly runs a Welcome Me 20 code or a rotating monthly sale, they aren't actually generated urgency. They are systematically training their customer base to become bargain hunters.
Yep.
Loyalists realize they are being penalized for paying full price, so they simply wait for the next email blast.
And in doing so, you completely erode the integrity of your pricing architecture.
Mhm.
Once a brand is viewed as a discount brand crawling back to premium, full price positioning is nearly impossible.
So, to avoid training these bargain hunters and to prevent the financial drain of unmodeled stacking, a brand obviously cannot operate on intuition. They need a rigid operational system.
For sure.
And the guide details these specific discipline playbooks and compliance guardrails to standardize these efforts.
And these playbooks are highly effective precisely because they rely on segmentation and behavioral timing, rather than just relying on the sheer depth of a discount to drive action.
The abandoned cart playbook outlined here is a perfect example of that behavioral timing.
It's brilliant.
It really is a masterclass in psychological escalation. It's a three-step sequence. When a user abandons a cart, 1 hour later, they receive an email containing 0 discount. It is purely just a customer service check-in or a cart reminder.
Right.
Then, 24 hours later, the second touch point offers a free shipping unlock. And it is only at the 72-hour mark that the brand finally deploys a 5 to 10% discount code.
By escalating the offer slowly like that, the merchant protects their margin against customers who simply got distracted and, intended to complete the purchase anyway.
Yeah, they didn't need the discount to convert.
Exactly. If you immediately blast a 15% off code 1 hour after abandonment, you are incinerating margin on guaranteed revenue. You have to capture the low-hanging fruit first and only deploy the margin hit when the lead is genuinely turning cold.
That makes total sense. Another operational standard in the guide is the annual calendar playbook. It strongly advises limiting a brand to 6 or fewer site-wide promotional events per year. Furthermore, those events must have hard, publicly stated end dates that do not get mysteriously extended by 24 hours. Promotional fatigue kills margin velocity much faster than the actual depth of the discount.
Alongside that, they have the win-back playbook. If a customer has lapsed and hasn't made a purchase in over 90 days, the brand hits them with an aggressive 15 or 20% code.
Which feels deep, but...
But this works. It works because the fundamental economics of re-engaging a lapsed customer beat new customer acquisition costs by 3 to 5 times.
Wow.
You can afford a deeper margin cut there because you aren't paying a social media ad network for the click. You already have their email.
Okay, but deploying these playbooks isn't just an exercise in internal strategy. There are also external legal guardrails that e-commerce operators have to navigate now.
Oh, yeah. Compliance is getting increasingly aggressive in this space. In the European Union, for example, merchants are bound by the Omnibus Directive. If a store displays a discounted price, they are legally required to display the lowest price that specific item was offered at over the preceding 30 days as the reference point.
That completely eliminates that classic retail trick of artificially inflating a product's price on a Tuesday just to put it on a quote-unquote 50% off sale on Wednesday.
It outlaws fake price inflation entirely. And if a brand violates the Omnibus Directive, they face substantial regulatory fines.
And what about in the U.S.?
In the United States, the primary compliance issue is MAP, minimum advertised price agreements.
Okay.
These are binding contracts with wholesale suppliers that strictly forbid a retailer from advertising a product below an agreed-upon price floor. If a merchant's automated discount stacking accidentally pushes a product below MAP, they don't just get a fine. The supplier will literally sever the contract and revoke their right to sell the brand entirely.
So the stakes are incredibly high.
Very high.
Okay, so you've verified your compliance, you've survived the worst basket test, and your playbooks are live. How does an e-commerce strategist actually evaluate if the promotion was successful? Because tracking the standard Shopify dashboard isn't enough, right?
Oh, tracking the wrong key performance indicators is a very quick path to insolvency. The guide demands tracking net revenue per promo, not gross.
Net, not gross.
Exactly. You must constantly monitor your gross margin percentage to ensure it never dips below that baseline margin minus 5 percentage points floor we established earlier.
Right, the unbreakable floor.
And additionally, your total discount cost should ideally remain under 12% of total gross revenue.
There's one operational metric detailed here that completely shifted how I view post-sale analytics, and that is the refund rate.
Oh, man. Yeah.
The guide highlights that you must monitor for a massive spike in returns because discount-driven impulse purchases get refunded at 1.5 to 2 times the normal baseline rate.
Because the psychology of a deep discount fundamentally changes the buyer's intent.
How so?
When a product is 40% off, consumers get caught up in the scarcity and the hype. They buy variants or sizes they don't actually need just to secure the deal.
Right, the I'll figure it out later mentality.
Exactly. And a week later, buyer's remorse sets in and the returns just flood the warehouse. Processing those returns costs labor and return shipping, which further erodes an already thin promotional margin.
Which brings us to the ultimate e-commerce mirage, Black Friday and Cyber Monday.
The big ones.
Every November, the industry press is flooded with headlines about brands shattering top-line revenue records. But behind closed doors, those exact same events are fatally wounding businesses.
Because founders report on the gross sales volume and they celebrate the massive traffic spikes, but they are willfully ignoring the lethal combination of the actual discount costs applied and that massive wave of refunds that hit the ledger in late December.
The hangover.
Yeah, the Black Friday hangover. By January, when they finally reconcile the variable costs, the free shipping subsidies, and all those returns, they realize the record-breaking promotion actually resulted in a net cash loss.
Ouch. So what does this all mean? For you listening, whether you are architecting an international e-commerce empire, managing the margins for a niche boutique, or simply filling your own cart online this weekend, evaluate the mechanics operating beneath the surface.
Definitely.
Are the brands you analyze functioning as disciplined margin protectors, carefully utilizing shipping thresholds and behavioral timing? Or are they blindly chasing a vanity revenue uplift right into bankruptcy through endless, unmodeled 30% off site-wide codes?
Recognizing the difference between those two operational states is truly what separates a thriving enterprise from a failing one. And actually, I want to leave you with a final, lingering concept to analyze today, drawn from one brief, but really profound detail in the source material regarding native platform tools.
Let's hear it.
The guide states a simple accounting fact. Gift cards are deferred revenue, not a discount cost.
Okay.
I want you to deeply ponder the financial and psychological implications of that classification. What if a brand decided to entirely cease offering percentage-based discounts and instead only offered promotional value via gift cards for future purchases?
Interesting.
Right. Imagine an offer stating, buy this full-price item today, receive a $20 gift card for your next visit. Because that liability is classified as deferred revenue, and because statistical models prove that a significant percentage of gift cards are never actually redeemed, a phenomenon known as breakage, could a traditional promotion essentially be transformed from an immediate, painful margin loss into an interest-free cash loan provided directly by the customer?
Wow. That completely flips the script on how business could fund its own acquisition costs.
It forces you to rethink the very definition of a promotion.
It really does. And it ties right back to that store window we started with. The next time you see a massive red discount sign, remember, it is never just a deal. It is a highly complex mathematical equation. And someone, somewhere, has to pay for the math.